Good day, Sir Tondo. I'm here to present my video reporting. The topic is logical opposition. Logical opposition. Logical means the rules of logic. Opposition exists between two propositions when these propositions have the same subject and predicate terms, but differ from each other either in quantity or quality or in both quantity and quality. So in these oppositions have two propositions which is the true and false. So they have also the subject and predicate terms, and also they have both quantity and quality. So later on we're going to tackle about those opposition and the connection of the kinds of opposition and proposition of each opposition. Example: all Filipinos are Asians. The subject term is Filipino, the predicate term is Asians. The second premise: no Germans are Romans. Subject term is Germans, the predicate term is Romans. So in this example, we can never talk about any of um, opposition between these propositions because they don't have the same subject and predicate terms. Uh, this second example, all Filipinos are Asians, no Filipinos are Asians. So in this example, we clearly see that they have the same subject and predicate terms, the Filipinos and Asians. So the first premise, which is all Filipinos are Asians, is categorically negated. Negated means deny by the second premise, which is no Filipinos are Asians. Also, from the bare definition of logic opposition or opposition of propositions, we notice that their opposition is caused by their differences in terms of quantity, whether they are universal, that is A and E, or particular, that is I and O, or quality, whether they are affirmative, that is A and I, or negative, that is A and O. So this example, the differences of this opposition of propositions is the first premise: all Filipinos are Asians is uh, that is the quality, uh, affirmative, that is E, and the no Filipinos are Asians is also the quality, that is negative, E. That those differences in terms of quality. We have the four types of opposition. The first one is contradictory, the second is contrariety, the third one is subcontrarity, and the fourth subalternation or subalternity. And also we have the four kinds of opposition of propositions. So there are the four kinds, and they have the square of opposition, or what logicians commonly call logical square. So this is the logical square or square of opposition. So we can see that inside the square there is the four kinds of opposition. We have the contradictories, we have the contraries, subcontraries, and subalterns. And also we have the four kinds of opposition of proposition. We have A and O, E and I. Contradictory opposition. This is an opposition existing between a pair of propositions having the same subject and predicate terms, but these propositions differ in both quantity and quality. So this contradictory opposition is have both differ in both quantity and quality. If we going back to the illustration, we can clearly see that the contradictories is the center of the square of opposition. So it means they have the connection or the relationship of those four kinds of opposition or proposition, the quantity and the quality. So the proposition example is all men are mortal is the contradictory of some men are not mortal and vice versa, and no man is mortal is the contradictory of some men are mortal and vice versa. So we can clearly identify the contradictory because they are connected of the affirmative and the negative, which is the quality, and they are connected also the quantity A and I. So we have also the roles of contradictories. If one of the two contradictories is true, the other is false, and vice versa. B. The contradictories cannot be simultaneously true or false at the same time. So it means if the one side or the first quantity is true, the also one is false. Dili siya simultaneously na if the one is true, the other side is true. No, this there is contradictories of that point. So there is the draw of the conclusion of the rules of contradictories. If A is true, O is false. If E is true, I is false. If I is true, A is false. If O is true, A is false. That is clearly see that there is no, or they cannot be simultaneously true or false at the same time. The second is contrary opposition or contrariety. This is an opposition existing between a pair of universal propositions having the same subject and predicate terms, but differing in quality since A is affirmative while E is negative. So, universal proposition, they have the A and E, but they are differing the quality. So, contrarily, there is the gap between the proposition, and they are not what I mean, they have no relationship between of those proposition. So there is the example or the proposition, all men are mortal is the contrary of the proposition, no man is mortal and vice versa. So it means in this example, all men are mortal, that is use the affirmative A, and no man is mortal, that use is negative A. We have also the rules of contrariety. If one of the contrarieties is true, the other is false. If one of the contraries is false, the other is doubtful. So why is doubtful if the contraries is false? It because this is means that if the falsity of the universal propositions is not involved, the falsity of the quality. That's it. That's why is doubtful if the contraries is false. Third, subcontrary opposition. This is an opposition existing between a pair of particular propositions having the same subject and predicate terms, but differing in quality. I and O propositions are subcontrarities. This is because I is affirmative and O is negative. Ah, so we have also the proposition. Example, some men are mortal is the subcontrary of the proposition some men are not mortal and vice versa. So we can see that they are using the particular proposition, and we uh, define that they are using the affirmative I. Some men are mortal and some men are not mortal, and that is the O propositions. There are also some contraries. If one of the subcontraries is true, the other is doubtful. If one of the subcontraries is false, the other is true. So this is how we going to discuss it, that if the truth of the particular propositions is not involved of any truth of the quality, that's why is doubtful. So if we draw the conclusion of rules of subcontraries, if I is true, O is doubtful. If O is true, I is doubtful. If I is false, O is true. If O is true, I is true. And the fourth one is subaltern opposition. This is an opposition existing between a pair of propositions having the same subject and predicate terms and having the same quality but differing in quantity. The following propositions belong to subaltern opposition: A and I and vice versa, and A and O and vice versa. So they are going to conduct the same quality. So we know that we have the affirmative and the negative. So the affirmative here is the opposition A, and we have also the opposition I, and the negative quality is we have also the opposition A and opposition O, but differing in quantity. So the universal propositions, that is A and A, are called subalternant or superior, while the particular propositions, that is I and O, are called subalternate or subaltern. So we have the proposition example. All men are mortal is the subalternant of the subalternate propositions. Some men are mortal and vice versa. So we can understand that there is the differences in this proposition. All men are mortal, so it means they are using the universal propositions, and that is A. So some men are mortal, and they are using the particular proposition, and that is I. And the second one is no man is mortal is the subalternant of the subalternate propositions. Some men are not mortal and vice versa. So the first sentence, no man is mortal, they are used the universal propositions, and that is E. And the second one is some men are not mortal, they're using the particular propositions, and that is O. We have also the rules of subalternation. If the universal is true, the particular is true. This means that the truth of the universal involves the truth of the particular. So if A is true, I is true. Or if A is true, O is also true. So they are all connected. They have all connected of which opposition of proposition. Letter B. If the universal is false, the particular is doubtful. This means that the falsity of the universal does not involve the falsity of the particular. Thus, if A is false, I is doubtful, or if A is false, O is doubtful. And letter C, if the particular is true, the universal is doubtful. This means that the truth of the particular does not involve the truth of the universal. Thus, if I is true, A is doubtful, or if O is true, E is doubtful. And the last, letter D, if the particular is false, the universal is false. This means that the falsity of the particular involves the falsity of the universal. Thus, if I is false, A is also false, or if O is false, E is also false. So they are all connected of each other in this fourth opposition subaltern. So that's all, sir, and thank you for the time. Thank you.